Welcome back, everyone, to our third and final part of our interview with Curt and Mathilde from Roboto Games, talking all about their new project, codenamed Proeject Storm. Check it out. So, speaking on taking in those decisions, you shared lots of different avenues from your Slack to surveys to interviews. Could you share an instance where a player feedback influenced the decision directly into the game, or you had to make a change because of that decision or feedback?
Well, the big one was the perspective change. That was a big one. That was huge for us, and so going, because we were originally planning a top-down game, and then when we were starting to test art styles and concepts and stuff, we tested this with our target audience, and that was a huge change for us. And then as we proceed to, we just did some concept testing where we were presenting sort of just the high level idea to some testers under NDA. We already got some more feedback from that as well. Although that feedback, I guess, is still under wraps. So we're starting to react to it. But that's
hang tight.
Yeah, hang tight on that one. But I don't know. Maybe Mathilde can add some more.
Yeah, no, player feedback has definitely been influencing the project direction from day one, and a big example of that is our art style. So we actually started out with a much more chibi style, and the project was also top down, as Curt was saying. And as we started testing different art styles, we realized that for the PC audience in particular, a more kind of reasonably proportioned, more realistic style resonated with the audience much more than the more, mobile looking kind of cute, right, big heads art style. So we pivoted to that, but we also know that especially visually, we need to differentiate ourselves. So we didn't want to be too photorealistic or anything like that. So that's why we landed on our graphic novel style, which is really cool and partially inspired by French and Belgian kind of graphic novels that I grew up with. So it's pretty exciting.
That's cool. Yeah, so it sounds like the art style of the game went through many changes. Art style including like the perspective, since that influences back and forth. That's fascinating. But yeah, that's like trying to make the best game as you can requires you to make those big sacrifices sometimes. And in the end, the goal is to make a great game. So.
Yeah, and I will say, when it comes to feedback, something we found, you can try to build it, have a vision and just launch it to a bunch of people. And we've done that with some games in our past, and sometimes it just falls completely flat. And so that's another reason why we do this, is that you're trying to get that feedback in as early as you can, so that, and the bigger the project, we feel, the more important it is. Unless you're making a sequel, right? I mean, making a sequel, it's easy. But if you're making something new, then we're trying to sort of guide this thing to make this awesome game for the audience, right? So, and of course, because we're cross-platform, there's very different uses of how combat and mechanics and time availability and stuff like that. And so we've got some cool stuff under wraps that we think will make it sort of fun. You'll have a fun time, however you choose to consume it. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't even consider that, the amount of time that and different ways you play on different systems. Yeah. Real quick, I know we touched on this a little earlier, but how do you stay true to your vision while also taking in this player feedback?
Yeah, well, that's the tricky one, right? You can't, if you just take the sort of average feedback, which a lot of times people have in their head, some game they just play. They're, it just should be more like this game, right? But if you take all that feedback, it's going to move your game to be like every other game that's already out there, and then why play your game instead of the one that I already have 50 hours in, or whatever it is, right? So it's always a tricky balance between sort of taking sort of that average, survival crafting audience feedback versus, staying the course. And so exactly how you do that is on a very case by case. And, we have, long discussions on the design team and the product team about sort of how to proceed in the face of feedback. So and we also poll the entire team sometimes if it's a big thing. It's like, are we sure we want to do this? This is a big change, and so that goes back to the culture and sort of making sure everybody's voice is heard as well. But I'm sure Mathilde can add more as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a balancing act, right? Making sure that we do seek out and listen and incorporate player feedback and still remain true to our original vision. And so the way that we do this is we do have design pillars for the game, right? So things that we're like, no, this game is about this, or it's about that, and it's not about this other thing. And that guides, as a broad aspect, it guides our vision, right? And it guides our decisions, our micro decisions. And so generally, we don't change our pillars, right? Or it's very rare, right? We have to make sure, it's a very weighty decision to change one of those pillars. But that's how we kind of keep our vision moving forward, for sure.
Awesome. That's cool. Thanks for sharing all that. That's, I think, really great insight onto a lot of what I think other game developers might run into as they build along the way. Next question I want to ask is, in what ways do you believe that being a player-first company sets you apart from other game developers?
So I think being player first, and in this company and this project, more so than any in the past, we are from the get-go, have this idea. We love survival crafting games. Okay, what are we going to do that's going to make it different? Lots of muddling, thinking around, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, we have a history in modding. That's going to be cool. So what if we sort of built that from the ground up with that in mind? What if we, how are we going to stand out sort of mechanically and artistically in the market, right? So artistically, it was like, well, that's cool. What are some cool art styles? And then we're already starting to test those art styles. It's very rare for people to test the art style of a game. They just be, we're making it this, and that's what we're doing. And then they go and they ship that game. And we've done that too. But we tested, for instance, 7 quite different art styles, and both sort of surveys and sort of testing if people are clicking on ads, this kind of thing. Now, if there are 2 things that are close together, we pick the one that we like more. And of course, we're only testing stuff that we like, right? So that's something we do. But at the end, we really are trying to make something that the target audience will love. And of course, that's, the target audience is a broad word. It's, survival crafting players is our target audience. And there's lots of different verticals even within that. There's sort of super hardcore, gory, die every 5 seconds survival crafting. And then there's pretty light, relatively friendly survival crafting, if you go over to the Minecraft side of the spectrum, right? So but sort of as a general rule, that's sort of audiences who we're going for. And we're talking to them in many more ways, especially sort of as an independent, indie company is talking to their users. We're doing it much more so. Some of the big companies have dedicated user researchers. Very rare for an independent company to have a dedicated user researcher like we do. Again, only sort of the big AAA companies tend to do surveys or other sort of art style tests, whereas we tend to do that. And also just soft stuff. So we even do surveys like, what do you like about survival crafting games? What features do you want in it? So we've done features on that, or done surveys on that, for example. Perspective surveys, art style. Like we're trying to sort of figure out what people like, and then take our vision and steer it towards that target as best we can.
Awesome. Cool. Very fascinating. Mathilde, anything to add?
Yeah, in terms of how, being player first distinguishes us from other developers, I think we're player first because we're constantly seeking their feedback in many different ways, right? So we have quantitative ways to do that with surveys. We have qualitative ways to do that with interviews. And and then as the project moves forward, we'll get them to play the game, right? And that's the most important thing that we can do, I think, and get into a regular cadence of playtesting with real actual players and hearing what they have to say and what they like and they don't like is something that we're going to start very soon, and I'm really excited about. And I think that it's going to make a difference too in all of our communication with players, right? And being like, no, we want to hear what you have to say, and we're trying to make the best game for you. But we're also curators of that feedback and making sure that we don't just listen to the loud voices, that we do seek out, and that's why we have so many different avenues for doing that. And the player feedback, button in game that Curt was mentioning is another one.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, no, it sounds like you guys found a great strategy from your years of experience making games from different platforms. So that's awesome that that's how you implement those learnings into your studio now. So for those who are really interested in the behind the scenes of game development, could you maybe give an example of what your day-to-day at Roboto might look like?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so it varies a lot, right, by discipline. So for me, I mean, I've been doing a lot of hiring as we've grown the team. And then I spent also a lot of time thinking about the game and how to make the game better and the design, and thinking about the research and how to reach out to our players and the best way to ask questions, giving feedback on that, making sure that the team is happy and everybody has what they need and nobody's blocked, etc. So a lot of communication with the team. And then I also spend a bunch of time just on company stuff, right? And just making sure, like, hey, do we have the right benefits? Or, hey, are we following the right strategy? And making sure that we're constantly in touch with our investors and other founders, right? And it's like, hey, what are you guys doing? And we're doing this, what do you think? How are you interpreting what's going on in the market more broadly? So my role is very broad, as co-founder.
That's cool. Curt?
Yeah, behind the scenes, it's funny because when Roboto first started, behind the scenes, I mean, I was just heads down writing code all the time, right? And my background's technical, and I would wear the CTO hat for a long time. For both of our companies at the start, that's what I'm doing. I'm just architecting code, writing code, that kind of stuff. But then, as you progress and the team grows a bit, then it becomes more, sort of team leadership, strategy, fundraising, that kind of stuff, strategy, direction, game vision stuff, bringing on the right awesome people. We've got amazing people across design and product and engineering and art and user research. We've got a really great team. And per Mathilde's point about making it a good place to work, I think hopefully we've shown we do a little bit of that, because just about half the team is from our old team, from our first company. So, and there were many years in between that. So at least we're not horrible people to work with. So
they came back.
At least we didn't scare them off the first time. So now a day is, because we're remote, Slack is a big part of that. There's just, especially for Mathilde and I, just the number of messages just piling up throughout the day, and we're like, okay, we get to give feedback on all this stuff, and what about the budget for this, and should we hire somebody to do that, or should we just like buckle down and do it, ourselves? There's just constant barrage, and so sometimes we're sort of in meetings and doing Slack all the way up until almost 5 or 6 p.m. our time, and then we can start to work on our own our own stuff.
Yeah.
So but we love it, right? I mean, you can't complain about making games. It's a fun and awesome thing to be doing. So
yeah, that's amazing. So it sounds like it's a balance between the technical stuff like writing code, but also the managerial stuff, taking care of your folks and making sure everything's running smoothly, securing funding and all that as well. Yeah, it's a big part of game development. I guess people don't talk about much. They mostly think about the art side, like making sound and visuals and gameplay. But a lot of running a game company is all the company stuff that comes with it.
Yeah, I will say there's a lot of not fun stuff about running a company. When you're filling out tax forms or, getting approved by various states to operate in their jurisdiction or, that kind of stuff. So
totally. Yeah. Taxes.
Taxes.
The bane of everyone's existence.
So painful.
So true.
So painful.
As we close out this interview, I'd love to ask some fun questions. One of them is about your journey as game developers. Do you have any fun anecdotes or fun memories over all your years of game developing that you'd like to share?
Oh, so many. I mean, there's
you should tell them about the Dragon Couch.
Yeah, well, how about you'll do the Dragon Couch, and then one thing I will say, one funny anecdote on the technical side is sort of watching that Facebook game grow, because it grew quite large at its peak. There was 1.5 million people playing it every day, and
wow.
But as the sort of CTO at the time, when we first put it live, it started growing, and I was just looking at the number of people playing every day, and it was going up by quite a bit. And I was, did some quick math and saying, well, if it's growing by 20% per day, we're only at, 2,000 people now, but in not very long, it's going to be really big. And I was very stressed, and I was working really hard to get all those servers up and running and sort of horizontally scale everything. And I remember at some point we were theoretically on vacation in France, but actually I was just going to the local supermarket, which had good Wi-Fi, and sitting down in the supermarket and watching as at midnight GMT, all the servers would crash, and they would just and there's literal nobody can play. No, there's no way we're gonna make any money, and it would happen every night at midnight. And then this would happen for days. Fortunately, it was midnight, Greenwich time, which is not sort of peak time for the gameplay. But it turns out it was just this stupid thing where a bunch of automatic backups were triggering on the servers, and because there was a lot of traffic, there was a lot of logs, and the logs were big, and then the backups would trigger, and then everything would but it would instantly go blank, and so it was really hard to debug. So that was a very stressful time. But
so were you on vacation, or
you could call it vacation, but if having your servers go down every night at midnight is vacation, then sure, I guess that's vacation. But
stressful.
We figured it out. We figured it out. And actually, amusingly, it was a random tip from Mathilde's father, actually, that put me on the right track to figuring it out. And it was good that he was there. He's like, well, what about this? Because he actually has some knowledge of sort of server administration and management, and just like, hey, what about this? And I'm like,
oh wow.
Yeah, so it was good though. We fixed it. We fixed it, but it was very stressful.
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah, power of the network.
Oh man,
you're dead. Yeah, I want to know about this Dragon Couch.
Okay, yeah. Well, now that I mentioned it, you have to know about it, right?
All right.
So the Dragon Couch. The Dragon Couch is actually something that our team built ourselves, designed, built, sewed, and assembled ourselves as part of our office decoration. And it turned out to be a much bigger project than we thought. So at one point, we had 3 sewing machines in the office just for the Dragon Couch. And I was amused that, there were a bunch of us and only the guys knew how to sew, and all the ladies were like, I don't know how to sew. Do you know? No. So anyway, that was funny. But yeah, the Dragon Couch is, something that one of our artists kind of concepted, and our art director at the time, Josh, was like, yeah, we'll make it. That sounds great. We'll build it. And it ended up being like 20 feet long, huge, massive, like, I don't know how much that thing weighed, but it's like you needed 10 of us to carry it and move it around the office. And the entire team, I don't know, we were like 20 some at the time, could fit on the Dragon Couch. It was more like a giant plushie than an actual couch, in terms of the structure. But it got so big and kind of unwieldy that it started, the seams started coming apart. And so the cotton batting inside started poking out. So Kristen, who's actually back with us, and one of our engineers who can saw very well, she decided to cut it up into 4 different pieces and sew the sides as if it's like sushi, basically. So
like
now we have
like a chopped up dragon,
like a chopped up dragon. And so when we sold the company, PopCap acquired the company and the Dragon Couch, and then EA did. And so when people went off to the winds, then the Dragon Couch went with them. So we don't know to this day what happened to the dragon head. We think it's still inside the bowels of Redwood Shores at EA somewhere. But we did. We have one piece of the Dragon Couch still with us. It's right next to me here. And it lives on. His name was Couchy.
Couchy, I love it. That's amazing. What a cool like team bonding activity that has now like spread all over the world. Well, it's a mystery. I hope all the pieces. Yeah, right. Maybe at EA, who knows? I hope all the pieces of Couchy come back together one day.
Who knows?
We'll have to organize a raid on Redwood Shores one day to reclaim pieces of our Dragon Couch.
That's awesome. As we close out the episode, I'd love to know, like, what is your one piece of wisdom to leave with the world?
So
now we're going deep.
Going deep.
Yeah.
I've got one for you. So
sure.
So the piece of wisdom that we've been thinking about is something we tell the kids sometimes is there's really 3 things to do in life, which is like pick a thing that is fun for you. Have fun in your life, because otherwise, whatever it is, you're not going to do it.
Oh.
And then the second thing is
give him a second
make
here.
enough money. Oh no, am I back?
You're back.
You're back.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Start over.
I'll start over. Okay. So one piece of wisdom that we like to share with mostly with the kids, I guess, rather we don't go around being like you should do this, but it is a bit more philosophical, which is there's sort of 3 basic things that you want to do in your life, which is one is pick a thing that you're going to enjoy doing, that you'll have fun. So have fun with whatever your vocation or thing it is that you're going to do. And then number 2 is that in order to keep having fun, you probably also need to find a way to make money, right? So that is also an important thing, because otherwise you won't be able to keep doing the thing that's fun. And then lastly, make the world a better place. So that's sort of the third one. So, but in that order is important. You should pick a thing in your life to do that's fun. Ideally, you should have a way of making money. Ideally, those 2 come together, right? And then at least once those 2 are satisfied, then try to make the world a better place. And that's sort of our motto, if you will.
Yeah, that's a great motto. That's a great mantra. Mm-hmm. I love that. Mathilde, do you have anything? Do you want to echo that, or do you have something else you want to leave out?
Yeah, no, I'll echo that. And Curt and I have been kind of following this philosophy for ourselves ever since we started Zip Zap Play, our first company, because it's very important for us to work on things that we enjoy doing, that are fun for us, right? And then it doesn't feel like work, and then you can keep doing it as long as you can. So, and that's why we're still making games. We're still building game companies, and making money. And unfortunately, money makes the world go round, and so you definitely need enough that you can keep doing the thing that you want to you need to do, and making the world a better place. And for us, it's making games that inspire people, that bring people together, that they can forge really strong bonds with friends and family, and making new friends, right? That also enjoy the games that you like. So, yeah, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I have one last question to ask you all. Who would be your dream person to collaborate with in the future?
Go for it, Mathilde.
Oh man, that's a tricky one. There's so many. I mean, we had, we were really fortunate. We had the opportunity to meet with Ed Catmull, the CEO of Pixar, and that was a great conversation. Wouldn't mind spending more time, chatting with Ed Catmull, or other creative leaders at Pixar. I think they've done, really amazing work over the years, really inspiring movies.
Awesome. Cool. Ed Catmull, you said?
Yeah.
Cool. I didn't know. I never learned a new Pixar CEO until now. So thanks for educating me.
Yeah, he wrote a book called Creativity Inc., which is quite good.
It's really good. Yeah, it's really good.
I'll check it out. And Curt, do you have anyone that you would like to collaborate with?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta call out Nintendo here. Just some of the best games in the world. Obviously Shigeru Miyamoto, but also maybe more specifically, I would say Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. I feel like they really just upped the bar for the whole games industry, and Eiji Aonuma is the designer on that. And so if I had to pick one person, I'd be tell me more about how you did that, because I mean, Legend of Zelda was already good, but Breath of the Wild just they went from here and they took it to here, and that game still reverberates throughout the games industry to this day. And so that would be one. I would say that would be pretty cool.
Totally. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing these two. Yeah, definitely high profile, very influential folks. And I hope that you get to meet them and work with them one day. That'd be great. For our listener or viewer, thank you so much for tuning in for this entire interview, Dev Diary with Roboto Games with Mathilde and Curt. If you would like to learn more about what they do or get into contact with them, you can follow them in the link below in the description. Once again, my name has been Samson. Thank you so much for joining us on this first Dev Diary, and we'll hope to see you next time.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Samson.
Thanks, Samson.